core aim is to present and experience an opportunity for your soul to reascend to its place of origin while cultivating a healthier spiritual awareness and emotional maturity. The show serves as a free offering to the greater community and an addendum requirement for all our new spiritual training students. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up a book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of your world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in this season, you can go to thesaduluhouse.com. That's SADULUHOUSE.com. You can also go to orishareligion.com to find out how you can become a student and member of the ANU spiritual order. That's ORISHARELIGION.com.
Peace and blessings and good afternoon today. Thank you for tuning in today to our new Asafo, one of the new blog talk shows that we're going to be doing. Brother Wale, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Wale Ifa. I'm going to be co-hosting. I have the privilege of co-hosting this new show with Brother Ifawunmi. I guess the first thing we need to do is apologize for the technical difficulties. We had some, but let's hope that's the last of it, and we just move forward from here. Brother Ifawunmi, what is our topic for this week?
Okay, we're going to be talking about African traditional religions, African spirituality, straight up, no chaser.
And let me just jump in there, brothers. I don't know, can you hear me? This is Brother Haru.
Yes, we can.
Okay, beautiful. We had some technical difficulties, and I apologize for that. But I'm listening in the background. You brothers are doing a wonderful job, and it's good that the people got an opportunity to, I guess, see the human side too a little bit. So got a little bit of a backstage candid action. But I will be listening as you just explain what ATR is and its purpose and its reasoning in this day and time. I'm going back.
Okay. Thank you. For one, thank you so much, Chief Yuya. I, for one, with African traditional religion is something, it's not just something, it is a spiritual system, an indigenous spiritual system that has been around for thousands of years on the continent, and as African Americans, and as Africans, we've been all over this world. North America continent, South America continent, and even Central America. And all these indigenous systems that are available nowadays all had this beginning thousands of years ago. And basically, it's African traditional religion is giving reverence to the primordial energies of nature. You have the water, wind, you have earth, and all of these energies.
And fire, of course.
Yes. All of these energies has that meaning. There's a spirit in the rock, spirit in the water, spirit of the trees, spirit of the plant, the animals. All of these have a meaning, a spiritual meaning. And with ATR, African traditional religions, and really I don't see it as so much as a religion, I see it as a spirituality. Would I add something with it here, Brother Wale?
I was going to make that exact point, brother. I think the phrase, the terminology African traditional religion, ATR, is probably popularized by the academic community. It's sort of an umbrella term to put all indigenous African spiritual systems under one umbrella. So if you're not talking about Christianity or Islam on the continent, but talking about the indigenous, the traditional, they just put it under that terminology. But I think you're right, brother. What we're talking about with the indigenous systems, not so much religion, but a spiritual science. Some might even say a philosophy, but definitely a way of life, which some people use the word culture to describe, But, so anytime we're talking about the Ifa system or any of the indigenous systems, it falls under the umbrella of ATR for research and study and categorization of information and stuff online.
And also, under the African traditional spirituality, there are different paths, spiritual paths, for what has worked for a particular group of people, a particular nation of people. You may have a Akan tradition, Ifawunmi tradition, the Palo tradition. A lot of these are just under the umbrella of African traditional spiritualities. When we say religion, when most people say religion, I immediately think of dogmas.
Exactly. I think this is probably from the anthropology community. I'm going out on a limb because I'm not exactly sure about that, but they're the ones who traditionally would study that type of thing, the indigenous systems of a culture. So some would say so they could go in and know how to exploit it better, but so they could definitely know how to interact in a way in which they would win. But I think there are different levels of, now that we're talking about spiritual systems, I think it's important to look at different levels of spiritual systems. Like we have the ones that are basically on the continent and the ones that have been, denominations, offshoots, mostly in the diaspora, coming off of those more, you could say roots off of a tree, splitting into different branches, just this, from the Voodoo tradition, of West Africa, we have the voodoo thing in Haiti. There's the voodoo tradition in New Orleans that is different, definitely. You have voodoo in what is that? Guyana, the Garifuna people. You have Garifuna in Honduras, and all spread out in all kinds of places. And of course, Ifa, Codomble in Brazil. And that in Lukumi, in Cuba, and all types of different offshoots of that. But so I guess in some ways they're like first and second level African traditional spiritual systems, if you would.
Yes, but we cannot. I understand you, and I do respect everything that you just said, my brother Wale. But we cannot forget the source. Many people, when they look at ATR traditions, I don't know how you have a African traditional system when you try to blot the African out. So in an African traditional system, many give that reference to those who came before us. That is the African traditional system. If you're going to have an African traditional system, it no longer becomes an African traditional spirituality when you tend to blot out its source.
Okay.
There's so many under that umbrella, offshoots from it, just like in your Christian churches, you got your Baptist, your Methodist, and all these other different groups and offshoots, but you cannot miss or delete the source.
Well, definitely. I think that's true, and I'm looking at an academic definition. I'm actually looking at Wikipedia.com's definition of traditional African religion, and it's saying some of the things you're talking about here. Where it says that traditional African religions have been passed down from one generation to another orally, and can be found through art, rituals, and festivals, beliefs and customs, names of peoples, places, songs and dances, proverbs, and myths. While adherence to traditional religion in Africa, for instance, is hard to estimate due to syncretism with Christianity and Islam, practitioners are estimated to number in the 100 million, or at least 10% of the continent's population. It goes on to say that indigenous religious beliefs and practices of African people include various traditional religions, while generalizations of these religions are difficult. Due to the diversity of African cultures, they have some characteristics in common. Generally, they are oral rather than scriptural. They include belief in a supreme being, and that should be a single supreme being, belief in spirits and other divinities, veneration of the ancestors, as you were talking about, brother, and the use of magic and traditional medicine. The roles of humanity is generally seen as one of harmonizing nature with the supernatural. And that's what Wikipedia has to say. So that's
in a nutshell, they basically covered it in a very general manner.
Very quite.
So I with ATR or ATS, I just hate that. Not hate, but I just dislike using that word religion.
Right.
With African traditional spiritualities, I find that many are going back home. They're going back home to the source. ATRs or ATS are so popular in terms of in terms of many people are reaching down within themselves. They're reaching down with themselves. Their spirits are growing. They're aligning their spirits with their souls. And actually, it's making them, it's actually the experience and the growth is turning them into their highest spiritual self.
Do you feel it's
a language? Go ahead.
Do you feel it's a contemporary movement going on?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I was reading an article a few weeks ago, and they asked a lot of these people out in New York, in Florida, out on the west coast of California, these people who have left contemporary churches, as to why they're leaving the churches. Now, a lot of these people were saying after languishing in Islam and Christianity, they wasn't getting anything. They were just going with emotion. But in African traditional spirituality, you just don't go with emotion. With the motion of everything else, it's become very deeply personal. You actually grow. You actually feel these things. It's all about you. You stand in front of your jingili or your altar, everything, that universe and everything is about you, about your abundance, your healing, your protection, your direction. All of that is very, very, very personal, as opposed to being in these churches for a while and it's a generic message. Something may be going on in your life that is beneficial to you or detrimental to you. You would get those answers. You would get that in African traditional spirituality.